Hey guys, it's your favorite sisters with the Confessions of a Reluctant Caregiver show. On the show, you'll hear caregivers confessing the good, the bad, and the completely unexpected. You're guaranteed to relate, be inspired, leave with helpful tips and resources, and of course, laugh. Today's episode is part of our special series, Heroes Caring for Heroes. We're featuring organizations who offer services and support to our hero caregivers. Now, let's listen in as we learn more about these amazing organizations. Hey, Jay.
Hi, Natalie.
How are you doing today?
I'm so glad to see you.
I love that you see me, and you're seeing me like in person.
Do you want me to touch you?
Don't touch me.
Okay, sorry.
All right. And so I know everybody's like, we know.
Yeah, I know.
On PBS, we get it. You're in a recording. You're together again. But we love it.
I know. Even our guest is laughing. She has kids, obviously. And when we say, don't touch me. Still at 51 and I don't know how
48?
Almost 49. Yeah, you're still like, don't touch
Maureen,
me.
I don't know why she would call out my age like that when everybody knows she's older. Does it really matter what my age is if JJ's always older?
Let's get busy here. We've got stuff to share. We've got a lot to share. These are things I didn't know about.
Oh,
Get
this
ready.
is one of my favorite episodes because last year we had Dr. Colleen Richardson come on from the the VA Caregiver Support Program.
Right.
And it was very exciting to have a government agency come on and talk about a specific program because we just didn't know a lot about it. But we have now another subject matter expert who has come in. And I did jump a little bit ahead because I'm, of course, Maureen. Thank you. But this is the Heroes Caring for Heroes special series educational episode.
It is. And we have got some amazing sponsors. We've got CVS Health.
Yep.
We have Tenna, the world's #1 adult incontinence brand. We have Care Forward.
Yep.
We have got Summit Behavioral Health Care. We have the Fisher House, who I love.
I mean, a ton of partners. So, guys, we appreciate all those folks who are supporting us to bring this to you. And today, for our educational episode, and this is all the questions. This is way more than the caregiver, because we're going to be talking about caregiver, family, and survivor benefits. We're talking about benefits.
Yes.
And benefits can feel very intimidating, like when you go to the doctor's office and they ask you what your blood type is.
I have no idea. So let's get started.
Okay.
So today we are so truly excited and thankful to have Maureen Elias with us. She has served in multiple roles at the Department of Veterans Affairs. She is also a veteran herself. Today she serves, and get ready, she's got
a very long title. I don't even think she has a business card. It's like a business.
I know. So, but today she serves as the senior advisor to the Undersecretary for Benefits with the Veterans, with the Department of Veterans Affairs. And she serves with the development, the adoption, and implementation of department-wide programs and policies related to benefits. And as I said, she's been an active member of the military and the veteran community for over 23 years. And she uses her lens as both an Army veteran and...
She's Army. I think that's important to know.
Army, sorry. I want to make sure we got it.
I've got to make sure that's known.
Army veteran as well as a military retiree spouse to positively impact policy decisions. She's got a lot going on. I mean, she is impressive. So she's also got a wealth of information.
Well, and we're here to talk about what the Veterans Benefits Administration offers.
Yeah.
And so, Maureen, thank you for being with us. Good morning. How are you? We don't know what time it is. There's no windows. We have no clue what time it is. And so, I'll say this, Maureen, we have international listeners. So some folks are like, well, why do we care about the VA benefits in the United States? And I'm going to say, you need to hear about benefits from other countries, because then you can ask, do I have that benefit available in my country? Does the UK offer it? Does India offer it? Does Canada offer it?
Yeah.
So these are the kinds of things, because if they don't, or you have some that are more than, you might say, hey, we've got these benefits. And we'd say, hey, Maureen, could you all take a little look-see? And could this be an option? So I think the more that we share, the more that we can advocate to support those we love who have served, whether they're active duty or veterans.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
So Miss Maureen, let's talk about I want to talk about, we're going to break it into kind of 3 buckets. We were talking about this beforehand because the benefits administration, it has an administration. Like that's a big thing. And so there's lots of programs. And I think when we were talking beforehand, you were like, ladies, I think we break it into 3 buckets: caregiver, family, and services. So let's start with benefits for caregivers that are offered by the VA.
Okay. So thank you so much for having us on the show. Happy to share about all the breadth and depth of things that we do here for veterans and their family members and survivors. So, for caregivers, within the caregivers alone, there's kind of 2 buckets, right? There are the VA recognized caregivers. Those are the folks that have actually applied to the program, become enrolled. Those are probably the ones that Dr. Richardson spoke about a lot when she was here on your show a year ago. And then there's just the hidden helpers, the caregivers that are caregivers without a formal title or without a stipend that are just like doing it every day. So for example, I'm a veteran. I have some disabilities. My kids all help me every day, to help with the things that I struggle with physically. They don't get paid for it. They're not a VA recognized caregiver, but they are.
Yeah.
So for VA enrolled caregivers, we have such a beautiful depth and breadth of services for them. So we offer, if needed, for those that are in the program that you enroll into, which is known as PFACP, we offer things like healthcare if you need it. We offer respite care. We offer legal services. That's a new thing we just started.
Ooh.
We offer bereavement support if the veteran that you're caring for passes away. We know that that's a really hard time, especially for a caregiver, because that has kind of been the purpose of your life. And so not only have you lost someone that you love, but you've lost your purpose, which we know can be really dangerous for folks emotionally. And so we also have caregiver support groups. We have a caregiver support hotline. So caregivers can call and ask all of the questions or get pointed to the right resource that we offer for them. So we really do our best to make sure that we are giving the caregivers the mental and physical and any other kind of support that they need to do the best job that they can caring for their veteran. And that's really important because caregiver fatigue, caregiver burnout, I'm sure you guys have talked about many, many times, is a thing. And sometimes the guilt of feeling those emotions can make you reluctant to access the services that are available to you. And so we kind of make sure that we're constantly pushing that information out to our caregivers so that they will feel comfortable making use of those programs, because then they'll last a lot longer and be much more healthy themselves and enjoying their lives more.
Yeah.
And so I know that last year, Dr. Richardson was saying, I believe the theme for 2024 was the year of the caregiver. And I think it was a caregiver theme again. And I know that last year they had implemented a lot more robust access to mental health services, really to fight exactly what you're talking about, caregiver burnout and that sort of thing, and really battling because a lot of folks, we just literally talked with our friends at PsychArmor about isolation and loneliness and the impact that can have on the caregiver, and thus the impact that can have on the person that they're caring for. Mm-hmm. And so any new updates that you're aware of or some sassy, catchy title for 2025 for the caregiver support program?
I don't think it's been announced yet, so I don't want to bring news.
Oh, okay.
I like it.
She's holding it back.
Technically, what if we said we promised that this wouldn't be announced until the end of November? We wouldn't do it.
She doesn't trust you.
No, Natalie, I can't tell you.
I will leave that to Dr. Richardson and her team.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, so we will like on YouTube. This is how we would do it because we'll show up images and things like that.
Yes.
So for all the stuff that Maureen shares, we'll make sure that everybody has websites and phone numbers and all that stuff that'll be in the show notes, and we'll pop them up because we have the ability to do that now that we're sassy.
Yeah.
The Caregiver Support Program also has a newsletter people can subscribe to. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. They do.
Fantastic.
They do. They have it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have a newsletter. They have, they'll send out caregiving texts just to check in on people. They have self-care and resilience courses. They teach suicide. It's not prevention, but talking about suicide is uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah.
And so unless you get a chance to practice it and learn about it, it's hard to have those conversations. So we have something called VA Save training that they can take to feel more comfortable engaging in the conversation. I can say from personal experience, I trained to be a therapist. That's what my degree is in. Mm-hmm. And the first time I had a client tell me they were suicidal, I about panicked. Yeah. What do you actually say? Like I could spout statistics all day, mm-hmm. but what do you say to someone who's like, I am in so much pain that I can't find a way to not hurt myself. Yeah. And so going through training like this can help you engage in that conversation and be less fearful, because we know that all that's needed most time is just to stop that roll. Yeah. A pause to stop the actual, movement towards the act. And so, we're making sure that they have the language and the training to help intervene when they can here. And I think it's important to note, veterans, many of us are very stubborn. We can be very self-independent. I know the shock on your faces.
I know. We've known a lot of people who have served.
Yes. And so, asking or accepting help from someone can be really hard. And I know when I first had to let my children help me, I was angry and frustrated and disappointed in myself. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes those feelings can bleed over. And so, I think that's why we've really focused a lot on mental health support for our caregivers, to make sure that they have what they need to make it through when we're having bad days, so that they aren't also having bad days.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's so important. I really appreciate the extra support for our caregivers around mental health. I think because it's a part of holistic health.
Yeah, it really is. So a question, and I know this was answered last year, but I want people to know, the caregiver support program, to be part of it, is it only for spouses or of a military or veteran, or is it, what if I'm a child, the daughter of a veteran? Can I also take advantage of those services?
So I think it's kind of one of those, it depends. Mm-hmm. It depends on, each VISN that offers these type of services, it depends on their capacity. Got it. In order to be like a VA recognized caregiver, one that gets a monthly stipend, you have to be at least 18 years of age.
Oh, right.
Oftentimes for veterans who aren't married, their parents or their siblings or even a friend becomes their caregiver. Right. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times children, unfortunately, are the ones that can carry a burden without getting as much support, especially because VA doesn't have kids, right? When a woman veteran becomes pregnant, we actually send them to the community to have all of their child care stuff taken care of in the community. So, we have heard of some VISNs that have done some pretty imaginative things to try to bring children in and incorporate them. But as far as I know, we don't have like formal training programs, and then children can't be an enrolled VA caregiver.
Right. As a child, though, if I'm 18 or above, any
you're talking about
an adult child, yeah. Oh, yes. Any person can. I just don't have to be a spouse. So so there are a lot of people that can if they qualify, can be part of the program.
Yes, as my drill sergeant used to say, "Lottie-dottie, everybody." Right? And how you meet that? That's meet the criteria.
That I like it.
Well, and just so that people know, and you can go to the you can actually just look up VA Caregiver Support Program in your search engine, and we'll put up the link to that. Mm-hmm. But it talks about the two different types of the general caregiver support program, which everybody can access, and then a bit more stringent qualification that gives the enhanced resource support. Right. So I think it's super important that people go and check out that website, mm-hmm. because there's lots of freebies and there's a lot of information.
And there is.
It's very easy to, I personally find it very user-friendly. Yeah. So yay for the VA on that. We have done a good job with our subcontractors on doing the website.
Yeah.
So
love it. I love to hear that.
I know, right? We're like, shoo. Okay. Yeah. So tell us more. Okay. Is there any other, are we ready to go to the family bucket?
I think the other two things I want to point out is a lot of people think that if they're just helping take care of a veteran, they're a caregiver and they can enroll in the program. Veterans have to meet a specific criteria for someone to be eligible to be a caregiver. Mm-hmm. So for most, they have to be a veteran or a member of the armed forces who's undergoing a medical discharge. Those are the first two, you have to have one or the other. Okay. And then they have to have a serious injury or illness that was aggravated in the line of duty in active military service. So if you had a guardsman or a reservist who got hurt, but it wasn't in the line of active duty, again, you wouldn't qualify for the program. Okay. And then for the more broader program, the one that you have to actually apply for and be enrolled, the veteran has to have at least a 70% single service-connected disability or like a total rating of 70% or higher.
Okay.
So then there's a couple of other things like the inability to perform activities of daily living.
Right.
Some of the things that, most caregiving programs have, but like as far as like the VA goes, those are some of the more unique things that are required.
And so I think one of the challenges for somebody who has a newer injury and understands, because there's a lot of paperwork. We love, it doesn't matter if you're government or not, there's a lot of paperwork to do anything. And I think just being mindful for families who are seeking, especially of a service member who is a veteran, and they've got documentation from 50 years ago. They didn't think, I think one of the biggest misconceptions, and I know that the Wounded Warrior Project, that our representative from there had chatted with us about it. And he said a lot of people don't realize that they don't want to take those benefits. And they're a post 9/11 program, but he was just talking in general about it. And so I think, there's a lot of documentation you have to have related to service, correct? And you have to have those documents to be able to apply. Is that still correct, Maureen?
So what you'll need is like proof that you served. So that's usually a DD-214, which is what you'll get out of active duty service. There's other forms that we'll take for like a guardsman that had enough qualifying time, et cetera. Yeah. Then you'll have to have applied for your benefits, got a rating, or you'll need to apply for benefits to get that rating that you need to qualify for the program. Mm-hmm. So you'll need something to show that you have the illness or injury, right? So you have to have the diagnosis. We can't just give it to you without it. And then you have to have something that shows or demonstrates that tie to how you got that illness or injury from your military service. So it's not a lot of paperwork, but it's complicated. And I think that's why one of the things we've been pushing really hard on is, it's never too late to apply for your benefits. Like some people are like, oh, I missed my deadline. No, no, you didn't. It's never too late to apply. And there are people who will help you do that for free. No one should ever have to pay for their first claim. So any of the VA accredited representatives, so we're talking about like there's VSOs, veteran service organizations like Disabled American Veterans, Veterans of Foreign War, they will do it for free for both the veteran and for the survivors when it's time to apply for benefits. Yeah. We have a tool on our website, and I'll share the website with you afterward, where they can go and find like one in their state. Oh, so if you're like, right, I'm uncomfortable, I don't know what to do, we have people who are well trained in it, that have been vetted ethically and are ready to help you do all of that for free. What we are seeing is a rise in these for-profit companies that are charging when they shouldn't be to help veterans and survivors file their claims. We call them claim predators.
We will make note of that you can get this done for free. That you should not.
Yes.
We don't know our friends. I heard that our friends at the DAV, our friend Michelle Horn with the Fisher House had shared with us that the DAV does offer that support at no cost. And so we appreciate that veteran service organization. So I like our acronyms. And so I'm like, I'm listening. I'm listening to make sure I remember everything, because there's a lot of acronyms. It's the same way in healthcare. It's lots of acronyms. Yeah. Okay. So that is caregivers.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. All right. Do you want to transition to family?
I'd love to.
Let's talk
family members.
Because this is family and caregivers too. It's just the way that they're the caregivers defined. So I think that's really important for folks to understand why we're doing this.
Yes, for sure. And so for all of the benefits that I'm talking about for family members, the veteran would have to apply for benefits. Okay. And again, you can do that for free. We have people to help you. We've worked really hard to make the process easier for you to do it yourself, but we also have people who are there to help you. So you're not alone. So for family members, when you have a veteran who has a qualifying service-connected condition, so especially those that are like 100% totally and permanently disabled, we have CHAMP VA, and I could not tell you what CHAMP VA, that whole huge acronym, but it's basically healthcare for family members and survivors. You can qualify for that. You can qualify for education programs. So there's the dependency education assistance program, or we call it DEA.
Mm-hmm.
And it's 3 years, 36 months of education assistance. So we'll pay your tuition and a stipend to the family member to attend school.
Wow.
What's really important about that is there's a timeline by which you have to use that. Otherwise, you lose it.
Mm.
And so one of the things I'm working hard to do is get more information out about that benefit, because a lot of times the family is just kind of listening to what the veteran says. We aren't directly communicating with them, and therefore if the veteran isn't sharing, they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyone can call the number MyVA 411 and ask questions, and they should be able to answer even the family member questions. And if not, they'll connect you to someone who can. Another benefit that we have is, let's see, for family members, gosh, there's so many different things that we have.
What about adapted home?
So that would be something that we do for veterans who have qualifying conditions. And so we have a specially adapted home grant, and it's a fairly large grant that you can use multiple times throughout the veteran's life to adapt the home to make it accessible. Mm-hmm. So that can be things like wheelchair ramps. They can widen doorways. They can make the bathrooms accessible. Yeah. So that's one that you have to qualify through certain service-connected conditions. Okay. We also have a different type of home grant, again, with the right conditions, such as blindness or some other qualifying conditions, where we can do a lot of electrical modifications, like smart home technology modifications, to help the veteran more easily navigate their life. And then a third option is called the HISA grant. And that's a smaller grant. It's not as large, but there is an amount that veterans can use usually it's enough to like adapt a bathroom or to add a ramp. Okay. Things like that. So there are 3 different programs that we have to help modify homes that veterans can live in it and navigate more comfortably and more independently.
So is that on, we'll make sure to put the website on, because I'm super interested in that, because I think about my friends that, who are working with the Department of Social Services and individuals who have need and they come to request support for them. And so they may say, oh, I didn't, I know that this individual served and they're a veteran, and they may, it's important, I think, equally for agencies to know cross understanding of information. And so I'm just sitting here thinking, I'm like, oh my gosh, this home program is so important because it allows people to remain in the home as long as possible.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. That leans right into aging in place, my friend.
Yes, aging in place, a wonderful thing that VA is working hard to be one of the, leading fronts of allowing people to age in home when they can. So there are also some adaptations that can be done through your VA healthcare. Okay. So, for example, I recently had an injury of mine degrade. It got worse. And so I ended up in the hospital for about a week. And by the time I got home, they had adapted my bathroom with like an elevated toilet seat with bar grips in my shower. And then they looked around the home to see where any other safety concerns were to make sure that I could move around my home. And that was all done by prescription. And so within the healthcare program, there are ways that they can help adapt your home to make sure that you can live there safely as long as possible. Wow. It's not the same as the specially adapted home grant. That's a little different. Mm-hmm. And this one, it depends on your healthcare provider letting you know that you need these and then just prescribing it. But I think a lot of veterans don't think or know to ask for that.
Yeah, that's within your insurance. Wow, that's great information.
It's like writing a script for an order for a wheelchair or a hospital bed. I mean, those are the things that you write a script for. And I think this is so. And so even though you're saying, I'm just going to say this, sure. Yes, it's got to be specific to the veteran. Many veterans have caregivers. And so these are the kinds of things that they can say, okay, when we go with you, I'm going to go with you to your doctor's appointment. Let me ask about these things because I've done the research on your behalf. I think that's so important.
Yeah, that's advocating. Your caregivers there prompting you along like, hey.
Really hard on our healthcare side to make sure the caregiver becomes a part of the team, of the primary care team of a veteran. So, we can do things like, prescribe help with a lift in the home so you're not ruining your back, getting your veteran out of bed. There are things that we can do to help adapt the home so your caregiver can keep caring for you in your home as well. So it's pretty exciting, to see how far VA has come even in, the last 10 years.
Yeah. That's exciting. Okay. What else you got? You're like that. I'm like, and then what
Oh,
happened?
goodness. I know there's so much more. We do adapted vehicles too. So we talked about adapted homes. If you have qualifying conditions, you can have either get like a specially adapted vehicle where the vehicle's ordered for you with the adaptions already in it, or you can get a vehicle and then the VA can pay. It's a grant, but it's paid to the dealer, not to the veteran.
Right.
And they pay the dealer to modify the vehicle for what you need. So things like hand controls, or they can take the seat out so you can roll in with your wheelchair, things like that. Again, the goal is giving independence as much as possible to the veteran, the ability to navigate their life.
Wow. I love that. So do all these programs, I just look at it as my tax-paying dollars at work.
Yeah.
And at work in a really good way.
A really good way.
Really good way. I'm totally good with that. I'm like, keep going, Maureen. I'm going to keep on paying my taxes. So are all these programs I think about, I want to make sure for eligibility. Some of the programs are specific to having combat injuries, the injury occurred in combat, or combat related injury. And so, like, what happens if you have an injury? So we have a guest, Tom, whose son was injured, and he was active duty, but he had a motorcycle accident. And so it wasn't while it was not combat related. Are there programs that, I know there'll be some programs that he would have access to, some that he might not be just because of the way that the injury occurred?
Yeah. So let me, a very common myth is that you have to have combat injuries for a lot of things, but you don't. Mm-hmm. The only difference for combat injured veterans is you can get concurrent receipt if you qualify. And that's where you can get like retirement pay from the DOD and your VA disability pension or disability payment, not pension. And then for veterans who served in combat and their spouses, if their income is low enough, they would qualify for a pension, which is a monthly stipend that we pay. That's about it. Now, as far as presumptives go, which is where you apply for a benefit, like we talked about earlier, for service connection, there are some that had to have occurred within a wartime period and within this area in order to be presumptives, because you don't have to prove it. As long as you show that you were there at this time, you can get it. But again, combat isn't always necessary for that either. So we have, veterans who served in some of the areas around Vietnam where they weren't in combat, but they were exposed to the same toxins.
Gotcha.
So, So, in the case where you were talking about the veteran who was in a motorcycle wreck, if that wreck occurred while he was in service, it would be still covered. If it happened after service. And that's where, I used to work at Paralyzed Veterans of America. A lot of the spinal cord injuries and disorders that our veterans are living with, they got them after service. Yeah. And so it's not a service-connected condition. And so it won't qualify them for what they do. But recognizing that they served, VA has a special priority group in healthcare that they can fall under to at least get the healthcare that they need to make their lives as comfortable as possible.
But I think that's the part that because it's like, if this, if that, if not. So dispelling the myths, because the more that we understand, the more we know how to help the people that we're supporting.
And it sounds like there are resources out there that can answer the questions for you. Don't just think, okay, the VA is this huge building,
it's this mammoth thing.
Don't you won't understand, but that there's resources that are free that you can call, ask the questions, and they want to help you.
I bet they do.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
they do. Yeah. So we love our jobs.
And I appreciate that, because honestly, you're very friendly. Yeah. And then and Dr. Richardson was super friendly.
Maybe
everybody seems very.
We're not going to give you, we're not going to give you her home phone number. But
no, we won't. But but she might give your email.
Yeah, I don't know.
So what else related to family? I think, what else related to family on your list?
You mentioned home loans. There loan opportunities.
So that falls under the survivor bucket.
Oh, wait.
Sorry, jump ahead.
Yeah, gosh, I don't know what happened, Maureen. I don't know.
Sorry, I got ahead.
What about the Veteran Experience Office?
So one of the things that we realized at the VA, and we say I wasn't here yet, but the royal we, was that, the VA is doing a pretty good job of providing what veterans need. But what we weren't doing a good job is delivering that need, right? Making sure that when they came in, they knew how to navigate the system. They were treated with kindness and the respect that their service earned them. And so I want to say it was 2015. About a decade ago, we created the Veterans Experience Office. And when we first started measuring how much veterans trust the VA, it was like 56%. It was not good. And now we're so excited because in less than a decade, we're up to 90% almost all the time across the spectrum.
Wow.
Yeah. Like, a big goal in increasing trust is like 1%. So to think that we've come that far is really exciting. And I'm one of those. I hated the VA. I was never going to come. I didn't trust it. I had a bad experience and I was like, I got TRICARE. I'm just going to use that.
Yeah.
And now I use the VA for all of my care because I love how I'm treated. I love the holistic healthcare they provide. And I feel seen as a woman veteran when I come to VA for care. And if you don't have a good experience, we have a really robust reporting program where people are held accountable if we don't get it right. And so that's their whole point. So they do things like create journey maps so they can see where are the pain points, where are the bright spots, what are the things we should change, what are the things we should leave alone. And then from those, we do a lot of human-centered design where we bring the veterans or the family members or the survivors in to help us as we're creating our solutions to problems. Because we can get siloed and are thinking like, this is the perfect solution. And then they come in to use it and they're like, this is awful.
I love that.
I don't understand any of this.
I love how authentic that you are, Maureen, because this is the way the world works.
Yeah.
Like, I have this great idea. We fix this. Honestly, again, working in the mental health field and nobody invites the actual care recipient or the family. Yeah. And you were like, we've got this perfect solution. Then they come in there like, that's not going to work. And we're like, why? And they're like, they tell us. And then you're like, oh yeah, that's right. That is right. That sure is, which is why I love that you guys have caregivers and the care recipient as part of the treatment team, that it's critical to include that caregiver because that they have a really strong voice to be able to help being able to provide those services. I know that the VCRN, don't you love an acronym?
I do.
So the
Veteran Community Resource Network. Yes. So we realized we were doing a really good job of providing information to veteran service organizations. And there's 44,000 of them. So it's not like that's nobody, right? And they're so important. But we realized that there are other organizations, nonprofits, advocacy groups out there, podcasts like yourself.
Thank you.
Who are helping to spread the word. And if we're not communicating with you, how are you going to be able to communicate all of the depth and breadth of everything we offer for veterans and their families? And so the Veterans Experience Office took the helm, whatever the right word is there, and decided that we needed to create something for us to continue sharing all the great things we're doing. And so it's new. I mean, we just started this two and a half years ago.
Yeah.
And the number of people that are utilizing the system to help get more and more veterans the information they need is so exciting because one of Secretary McDonough's biggest focuses is reaching those veterans who aren't already engaging with VA or those who engaged and it didn't go well, like me. And we're like, I'm done with the VA. We want them to come back. We want them to try again, or we want them to come for the first time so they can see how amazing all of the things that we offer for them are. And so the VCRN allows us to communicate a lot of information out that we just didn't have pathways for before.
Well, and I have to tell you, I'm going to give a shout out to my new friend, Jordan Harrington, who works at the VCRN office. And she was so fantastic because the eagerness and the passion, I mean, she's a caregiver and herself. And the passion to say, hey, we want to reach these individuals. They have a newsletter that reaches over 15 million veterans. And she's like, but we think there's about 7 million out there and we want to find them. And so I said, well, let's be friends and see if I can help find some. And so, the Sisterhood, the Confessions podcast is actually going to be on there, and we're going to be sharing this series through the newsletter, hoping. And so I would love for those veterans to get to hear this episode as well, Maureen, because I think they'd be like, oh, lived experience, relatable, and she's telling me it's better. I'm going to keep going. I love it.
I do too.
And if it's not good, let us know.
And exactly.
You can call Maureen at home.
Call Maureen.
Okay.
Maureen.
Yeah, here you go.
I love that. Maureen takes it all on.
Yeah, this is done.
I go to bed at 9, so just call.
And that's honestly, we're good Southerners. Like, if you're calling after 9, somebody had better.
Yeah.
So we're like, no calls after 9. Okay. So anything else under family
bucket?
I think the only other thing is there are some vet centers who can provide family counseling if that's what's determined the veteran needs.
Yeah.
But that is kind of a center-to-center capacity willing situation. it's not mandated that they do that, but it is something that many vet centers can provide.
So keep asking.
Yeah.
That's my answer.
Yes.
Ask.
Yeah.
What's
Don't
worse
tell
than
no for them.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Don't tell no for them. That's our thing.
I know.
How do we get to yes? Okay. So let's talk about, this is important too, because this is the uncomfortable part, is let's talk about survivor benefits. Because you'll have cared for someone, and what are the survivor benefits that we would want these caregivers and family members to know about?
Sure. That's a great question. And honestly, it's like one of my passion places, because one of the things that brought me back to VA was I wanted to know that my children would be taken care of if my service-connected injuries got so bad that I departed early, right? And so we have a National Cemetery Administration, and people hear that and all they think of is burial.
Yeah.
But actually they provide so much more.
Okay.
And they provide it with such a beautiful customer experience lens that for the last couple of years, they've gotten a 97% trust score, which is higher than, like, I don't want to name companies, but like big companies. They're rated right against them. And so they really do have the heart of the family at the center and compassionately caring for the families as it's time to lay their veteran to rest and whatever they want to. So one of the things is that they offer is burial or cremation support. So a lot of people think I have to bury them in a VA cemetery to get that support, but we actually have a grant that will help pay for maybe not all of it, but some of it if you're going to bury your veteran in a private cemetery. We can reimburse if you decide to get your veteran cremated. A new thing that just started is if you want, you can get an urn for your veteran. We also have like medallions you can get if the veteran, like you didn't know they were a veteran or you didn't know you could get it, like placed on their tombstone. Is that right? Their
headstone. Yeah.
Yeah. If you didn't get them buried in a facility, but you want people to know that they're veterans, we're also working on finding more ways to parity for Guard and Reserve to make sure that we're recognizing and honoring their service. We give grants to state cemeteries to help create and maintain our cemetery, like a veteran cemetery. One thing that people don't realize is that our cemeteries have to be kept to a national shrine standard. So you're not going to go into a VA cemetery and think the grass is too long or that tree is dead. Like, we have a responsibility to keep those up to really high standards. For caregivers, we have a lot of support. So even if the veteran is near the end of their life, we have a lot of support in planning for those end-of-life services. We have a whole kit that all the administrations work together on, the VHA, the VBA, and the NCA, so health, benefits, and cemetery, to help a veteran plan for the end of their life. You can do something called pre-eligibility determination so that you can already know what you're eligible for before you die and let your family know. And so it's one way to just alleviate some of the burden of what to do once someone you love has passed away. We also have things like you can get a presidential certificate, you can get a special flag. There are ways that we have the Veterans Legacy Memorial, which is one of my favorite things, which is an online memorial site for all veterans buried in VA cemeteries. And we keep expanding that. So I think right now we're at 5 to 10 million veterans that are on there. And it's a living legacy. So you can go in and add pictures and memories and, talk about the person that you loved and help people know who they are. I'm really excited about that. We have grants to help people learn about that, the VLM, we call it.
Yeah.
And to help school-age kids learn about, veterans of the past, especially, veterans in certain populations like Black veterans and Native American veterans and some of our other populations that tend to not get as much attention. And then we also, once the veteran has passed away on the benefits side, we actually do a lot for the surviving spouse and their children. So if a veteran passes away from a condition that they already had service connection for, so they applied for a benefit, or they died in service, we offer dependency and indemnity compensation, which is basically a once-a-month payment to help substitute the income that veteran would have made had they been alive. There's a benefit for the spouse, and then for all children that are underage. And then, there's certain exceptions. If they're in college, you can continue to get money for them as well while you're supporting them through school. We have the DEA program that I talked about earlier, the dependency education. Oh my goodness, my brain is not working. The DEA assistance program. Thank you.
Yes, it's okay. Team player.
Thank you. Love it. I love you guys. They can utilize that. And then we also have a Fry scholarship that certain families can qualify for so they can go to school as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have, for surviving spouses, they can also take advantage of the VA home loan guarantee. And for people who don't know what that is, it's a 0 down home loan. Which is hard to do. I would never have been able to afford the 20% I needed to buy a home in Northern Virginia. And because of that, we were able to get a home. Yeah.
All you had to say was Northern Virginia. It's like its own state here in Virginia. Because trust me, they're in a whole different pay band. So, God bless you.
We're not. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like going to California. Like you want to live in California so you can move east and feel like you won the lottery, or Northerners down to the south. Like that's when you don't go the opposite direction, Maureen.
That's right.
Well, that is an amazing program. Keep going.
It is. It's a great program. We also have insurance. So a lot of people don't think about insurance, but we have a new VA life insurance program that a veteran can get up to $40,000 for very small and low payments each month. And the reason that's really exciting is for veterans with service-connected conditions, like as high as my husband's and most life insurance companies either won't insure us or they gouge us.
Yeah.
And so this is a way for a veteran to at least make sure that their family has something before they pass away. Yeah. And so that would be something that a surviving spouse could receive is the funds that the veteran put into the life insurance program. Mm-hmm. And then we also, for combat veterans, if they served in a war, their spouse is eligible for a pension. And that's, with certain income limitations, an additional amount of money to help that veteran spouse survive. Yeah. It's often not paid to a spouse that's getting dependency and indemnity compensation. So this would be a veteran didn't die from a service-connected condition, but they still died. Yeah. And so we can help take care of those spouses. And when the spouse, if they have a condition that makes them homebound or they need aid and attendance, we can also help pay for that as well. Mm. And then we also have CHAMP VA, which we talked about earlier, which is healthcare. So we do our best to be as caring and thoughtful in keeping that sacred responsibility of caring for the survivor families as we can.
Gosh. I love this because there is, some people think that benefits are overwhelming and not sexy. And I'm going to tell you right now, you coming on and sharing all of these benefits for caregivers, families, and survivors is one, to me as a taxpayer and then a human being, feels really good.
Yeah.
Like this is where I want my money, my tax dollars to go, is to support individuals who serve, who have served to keep me safe, and their families who have sacrificed. And so, one, thank you for your service and your husband. And so, but we thank you for that. We thank you for these benefits. Yeah. These are thoughtful. I know that you guys probably have like 10 benefits you'd love to add that you guys are probably working on. And so I won't ask you what they are. If there's any that you can share, feel free. These are in the future benefits, but you got to be careful because then people start to expect them. So, but I know you've got more on the horizon probably that you guys want to continue to add.
Well, a lot of times the things that we'd like to add are things that we would need Congress to allow.
It's literally an act of Congress.
Literally.
That's what that means. Act of Congress. No, we need that.
Yes. We are pushing boundaries. This secretary especially is like, where are the areas within my authority that I can expand? So as we talk about PACT Act, I can tell you a little bit more about some of the choices that he and the president have made to make sure we have more benefits for others.
So go ahead with the PACT Act. That is for individuals who had toxic exposure while overseas serving. Is that correct?
Yes, there's certain countries, certain time periods that applies to. It did a couple of things, and it's allowed for the expansion of healthcare and benefits to millions of veterans and survivors. So it created, I want to say, 21 presumptives. And so as we talked about earlier, a presumptive is you just have to show that you served there during this time period and you have the diagnosis. You don't have to prove anything else. you get the service connected grant for that.
Wow.
And toxic exposures are hard to prove sometimes. And so this lifted the burden, especially of those veterans that had become sick from burn pits or from all the particle dust in the air or the chemicals they were breathing as they were around all the jet fuels and things like that, kind of the smells of war, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I remember my husband talking about running around a burn pit, and he would take a shower and cough and spit these like black loogies because of all that stuff that he'd inhaled, and they were doing that every day, and it's made people really sick.
Well, and I think that, we want to assume positive intent. Nobody wants our service members to get sick.
Yeah.
Nobody wants that. And so, and this is how the government's doing the right thing to say, we're going to support you. Yeah. And that's what we want. Yes. When we make a mistake, we find a solution to provide support to those individuals. Yeah. And whether it's, service or financial, whatever it is, it's to try to make it right. Yeah. To make it right.
Yes. So when we talk about Secretary McDonough and President Biden wanting to expand as much as possible, Congress knew this was going to be hard to implement. And so they very thoughtfully created phase-ins for veterans to allow us the time to implement. Yeah. And what, as this was being considered, how do we implement it? They did not want one veteran to die while waiting for their PACT Act benefits. So they decided to roll all the presumptives in and allow everyone to apply the first day the law was law.
Wow.
And so,
God bless you, VA. Somebody's having to enter some information.
Wow. Yeah. So we've had to go and explain before Congress, why we made this decision, because I know that it was a lot of work because I helped write it.
Yeah.
We put a lot of work in to make sure VA had what they needed, and they gave us such generous resources that we were able to implement it. And so, just to give you like a little perspective of those veterans that we went ahead and got rid of the phases for, 17,900 have died that might not have gotten those benefits because they'd still be waiting for their phase in. Wow. So some of them might have been phased in right away, but some of them would have waited. And even more have gotten benefits and are already in healthcare now. And so, when he talks about how do we get as many as possible, he means it. And it's really inspiring to serve under someone whose goal is to put the veteran at the center of every decision we make. And one of the things that I really love about the PACT Act that isn't touted as much is survivors. And the reason I say that is it's hard enough for a veteran to prove a toxic exposure. How do you prove that someone you love died of a toxic exposure when you don't really understand the process? You don't really have proof of paperwork, right? And or you applied for it and were denied. Mm-hmm. And so with the PACT Act for survivors, not only do we have those presumptives, so if you're a veteran who passed away, fell under one of those presumptives, you can apply for your dependency indemnity compensation if they died from something related to that. But if you applied in the past and were denied, you actually get retroactive pay to that first denial. And so they made sure that we were taking care of those families as much as we could. Wow. And one of the things that we're seeing is that the survivors don't know that they need to let us know that they were denied for it, that they have to kind of ask for that retroactive pay. And so we're working on how do we better communicate that to survivors. So shows like yours are a great way for us to reach out and let them know, like, hey, if you applied and were denied and you think it was related to toxic exposure, please come back. Mm-hmm. And even if it wasn't a presumptive, right, it may still be granted. So what I say to everyone is just apply. Let the VA tell you no. Don't say no for the VA. Mm-hmm. And if you don't think we got it right, like one of the things that the Undersecretary Jacobs has really pushed is it's our responsibility as the VA to help the veterans, to help the survivors get the paperwork that they need to file for these disabilities. So we're reaching out to the DoD. We're making sure that we're reaching out to VHA. We're helping them get access to the paperwork they need to apply for the benefits that that veteran has earned for them and for their families. Mm. Sorry, I'm talking too much. I can feel it.
JJ ran into her mic, so I pushed her back. So when I pushed her back, I was like, she ran into her mic. Sorry. She got so JJ.
So I lean in because I have such a question here. So
she always leans.
I'm like, okay, because I'm like, okay. So here's my question, because I've talked to people at the VA before, and no one is ever as excited as you are, Maureen, about your job. What where does your passion just to come from? Why? What is it that gives you this passion to serve?
I think, so for about 10 years, I never identified as a veteran. I didn't serve in combat. I was medically discharged and I was horribly depressed. And once I finally leaned into the fact that I'm a veteran and started taking advantage of the Veteran Service Organization resources that are out there, I found myself again. And it brought so much joy to me coming into VA healthcare and getting treated like a veteran, getting the benefits that help supplement my family and make sure that I'm taken care of and that they'll be taken care of when I die. I want other veterans to have that so they can be full and authentic and involved and engaged in their lives. And I think that's where I want to give back what was given to me because I feel like I got my life back. And so I think that's where that and a lot of caffeine. I'm big caffeinated, but mostly that, mostly the passion.
You are an ideal representative for the VA.
I'm going to tell you, Miss Annetta, I thank you for connecting me to Maureen. And as all I'm going to say is, what a wonderful representative. And I know that everyone who listens to this episode is going to be blessed and grateful for this information because at some point they may need it. And we are going to shout from the tops of the mountains to listen to this one.
Yeah, absolutely.
So well done, Maureen. Thank you so much. Guys, thank you for listening to, that'll wrap us up on our episode of Heroes Caring for Heroes.
Absolutely. This is another one of our educational episodes. And we're sponsored by Atena, number one incontinence products in the United States, or in the world, actually.
Yeah.
CVS Health, Summit Behavioral Health Care, Care Forward, and Fisher House.
Of course.
Love Fisher.
And we got a ton of partners. We've got I think we've got close to 20 partners in total. And so, and the VA, of course, is one of our friends who came on and said, hey, we want to tell the world about benefits. And Maureen, thank you so much for being with us again. We appreciate you. We are totally going to stay connected. I'm going to tell you right now.
You're coming back.
You're coming back. You're going to be a bestie with the sisters. She's a redhead. If you're not watching on YouTube, she's a redhead. So she's clearly a sister. So guys, until we confess again, we will see you next time. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Well, friends, that's a wrap for today's educational episode. Thank you for listening to our special series, Heroes Caring for Heroes. And don't forget to visit our website to sign up for our monthly newsletter, sign up for the free Sisterhood Advantage Discount Club, and of course, connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, Twitter, and Pinterest. You'll also find the video recording of all our episodes on the Confessions website and our YouTube channel. We'll see you next time when we confess again. Till then, take care of you. Okay, let's talk disclaimers. We are not medical professionals and are not providing any medical advice. If you have medical questions, we recommend that you talk with a medical professional of your choice. As always, my sisters and I at Confessions of a Reluctant Caregiver have taken care in selecting the speakers, but the opinions of our speakers are theirs alone. The views and opinions stated in this show are solely those of the contributors and not necessarily those of our distributors or hosting company. This podcast is copyrighted and no part can be reproduced without the express written consent of the Sisterhood of Care, LLC. Thank you for listening to the Confessions of a Reluctant Caregiver podcast.